But when you're not together, you know, it's very hard to work that out and to make it fair. That is truly transparent, does what it says. Oh, I can do this, yeah, I'll be fine. And then it happened, and then you're like, and you're working at Fashion Week. I mean, there's no time for customer service. And I was like, I can work with you. Do you know what I mean?
A couple of psychos.
Yeah. And then I won.
Right then. Currently, we are recording. Shit, my barn.
Your barnet's falling down a little bit.
Oh my, is it?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. How's that?
No, it's just one side. Use
Is
it like
it?
a headband.
Bloody hell. Technical difficulties.
That's perfect. Now get the hairband on. Perfect.
So, welcome to the podcast. We have our first guest. She is none other than Anna Chapman. She is the owner of Session Kit. You can hear her giggling in the background. But she's the owner of Session Kit, one of the best, or if not the best, place to find all of your session needs, tools, everything that all of the pros use. She's a mom, she's a business owner, she's a session artist, she's a longtime friend, and I'm very happy to have her on the first episode. Episode 1 of One Towel at a Time, a podcast by Phantom Towels, which is where you're going to hear a lot of me talking absolute nonsense with people that I admire and I am inspired by. This is our first podcast, so please bear in mind that we're trying to figure it out. There's going to be some blunders.
Trial and error.
Yeah, trial and error. There will be some blunders. There will be some technical difficulties, but I think for the first one, it's a perfect start to have somebody like Anna. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jono. Thanks for having me on your first ever podcast.
Of course. No, this morning we've actually had a nice, very early start. We went to a Salt Salon that's based in East London, owned by JP Scott and his wife, Iona. And we were doing some content for Phantom Towels.
Very good content. We have it coming.
Right.
All in the making.
And apparently it was very nice to work with someone that actually knew how to make content. So I feel very privileged to be in that group.
It was good. We got it sorted, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah.
Hairdresser to hairdresser. We knew what content we needed to make. We knew what everyone wanted to see.
Absolutely. It is really difficult to make content for a product. I mean, people out there that know what it's like to have contracts with brands and to have affiliations with companies, it's not that easy to actually film something and make it look interesting and fun. Because really, it is a towel. How interesting can you make a towel look?
Your Phantom towel is very interesting, though. It is unique. It is 100%. But yeah, 100%. I think when you're a professional and when it's a professional filming and a professional, you know, it actually showcasing what the tool does, it just works, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, at least it's just something that is a functional thing that you can use without a human being on, you know, with hairsprays and gels and all of these things that you really need somebody there to sit and bear the brunt of you trying.
Be a model for you. It was just us.
Exactly.
Easy.
So we were modeling each other, which was perfect. But so that was our morning. And then we went for breakfast, had a very la-di-da breakfast and a quick chit chat. And now we're at a studio in Dalston as well, which took us about 45 minutes to get our heads together. 2 old people trying to make it work. But we got there in the end.
We did it. Technical challenge is over. We're done. It's good. Now we can start. Thank God.
Yeah, slightly flustered, but we'll get there. So yeah, I think what would be really cool is for everybody to just hear about you, hear your story. I mean, obviously everybody knows you in the industry. You're very prolific. You're incredibly talented. You're somebody that I've always looked up to, and many other people do. And I think one of the things that most people don't know is, how did you get into hairdressing?
So let's go back to the roots.
Back to the beginning.
Back to the roots. I was brought up and lived in Portsmouth, and I've always wanted to be a hairdresser, right from, you know, when you're at school and they're all like, what do you want to be when you're older? I think my mum used to go, you know, have like the top part of her hair permed. Right. So I'd sit in the salon for ages. And I just loved the salon environment. And I think, I don't know, there was something that just clicked, that I really just enjoyed that environment. I also I think I just loved how glamorous all the hairdressers looked as well. You know, I think hairdressers always, especially in salons, you know, they always have to look very smart, well presented, and they're really warming, welcoming people. And so when I used to go into the salon a lot with my mum, I think I just really appreciated the environment and just really enjoyed it. Which I think then made me think, oh, I want to be a hairdresser. But I don't think I fully, obviously, really understood what it actually entailed. Mm-hmm. But then it just stuck all the way through school. And then when I was 13, I started to work in a salon, which I don't think was legally allowed. But I was very keen. My mum had broken up with my dad, and, you know, she was very much, well, both my mum and my dad have been very sort of their work ethic is great, more than career focused. They're sort of working class people that want me to work, want me to earn my own money. You know, we didn't have lots of money. You know, we were by no means poor, but we didn't have lots of holidays or anything like that. So we had the basic sort of stuff, and my mum was very much like, you know, once I was 13, she was just like, I'll buy you what you need, but what you want is what you need to buy yourself. So you need to work. Mm-hmm. So that was that at 13. And it just, for me, it was just hairdressing. I was like, oh, I'll go and wash hair, I'll sweep the floors, I'll make teas. So I went round loads of local salons that were all kind of in my local village, which was called Waterlooville. And I went round to loads of different salons asking if they would take me on. And they did. A place called Cutting Company, which was my first ever salon that I worked in. Mm-hmm. And to start off with, I just did cups of teas, cleaning, sweeping, everything. I wasn't even obviously shampooing at that point. And I was working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday after school. So my school finished at 2:30, actually, which was quite unusual. We had like shorter lunch breaks, and then we were able to finish earlier. So I would go from school at 2:30. I'd walk from my school, which was in Cow Plain. I would walk up to my grand's, which was in Waterlooville, mm-hmm. Go in, have something to eat, have my like dinner essentially, then go to the salon and work from like 5 until 8. So
it's a very small town job.
Yeah.
Go home, have tea with the family member.
Yeah.
Straight back to work.
Mm-hmm. My gran would always get in Mars ice creams for me.
Oh my God.
I loved it. So yeah, I'd go and eat with my gran. I'd walk up. I'd start work at 5. So I'd be at school till 2:30, get to my gran's, have something to eat, then go to the salon, work from 5 until 8 o'clock. I'd get £5 in cash.
5 whole pounds.
5 whole pounds.
In pennies? Like in pound coins or a note?
The note. They spared me the coin and they gave me the £5 note, which I was incredibly grateful for. Now when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God. But I was actually fine with that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, you don't know any better when you're that age. And at the time you think £5 is the world.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I was really enjoying it. And obviously I was doing that Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. And then Saturdays I'd work all day and get £10 for the whole day.
I think there's a lot of people that can relate to getting £10 for a whole day's work.
Yeah.
The child labour laws are probably
quite different. And I was 13, so that's why they were definitely giving me cash, because they were like, shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But it was great because I know obviously legally I wasn't actually meant to be working, but I really wanted to work. I wanted to earn my own money. I wanted to buy myself Levi jeans. That was like...
Of course. It was in, your friends had them, you had to have them.
I wanted them, my 501s. So, yeah, you know, for me it was like, I'm enjoying it. I loved my independence. I was very happy doing it. I wasn't like, I didn't really love school. I loved school for the social. I wasn't really academic. I loved art, drama, and seeing my friends.
Of course.
That was that.
Of course. That
and
makes
the parties
total
at the
sense.
weekend. Even though I was the only one working, so I was never able to stay really, really late, even at the weekend parties. Anyway, always been sensible, Jollo.
Yeah, right. I could imagine you were the one in the class that was like egging each other on.
Yeah, garage parties, strobe lights.
Of course. Yeah.
That actually is true. Yeah. So what happened? So then because I was able to have that opportunity of working earlier, I think I got in there earlier in terms of, you know, my training. So they were actually, even though they were a small salon, and they were great with their education and their training. So they were happy to train me right from the word go. So they did training on Tuesday evenings. So obviously, because I was still at school at that point, you know, they didn't say I had to do it or anything. It was just if I wanted to. So occasionally I would go, because obviously I was getting towards the end of school. I had my GCSEs, I had all that stuff. So I didn't do too much of that. And then eventually, when I finished school, I went into full-time working with them. And I did my MVQ. So obviously went to college, I think it was like for half a day or something. It wasn't
For
very
half a day, really?
Yeah, I don't think it was very long.
And then you'd be in the salon
and then I'd be in the salon the whole time. And then I think this salon system still has that, right? Where you have an MVQ educator that can mark off what you're doing in the salon.
Yes. I remember now. You're reminding me of my past now.
Yeah. God, I know. When we were saying we were going to talk about my past, I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, my MVQs and going to college. And yeah, I don't actually know if all this actually happens now. Do you?
I'm not sure. I think it definitely still does. I know that my mom was teaching MVQ for a while, but this was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a big thing. And actually, funnily enough, I never saw my paperwork for MVQ until recently, because I needed to apply for an American green card. Oh. And they asked for all of this paperwork, and lo and behold, the MVQ is what helped me prove the job that I do.
Yeah.
So that little old thing that you shove in the back of a wardrobe after 2 years of turning up for half a day.
I have still got mine.
Have you?
At my mum's, yeah.
Of
somewhere.
Course. Framed
I know
on
I've
the
got
wall.
it. But yeah, no, so I did obviously all of my MVQ and did majority of it in a salon, because we had a salon educator that could just mark us off. And I just worked my way up. And I think, like, my dad, I remember very much at the beginning, and I was a bit like, oh, I want to actually be cutting hair, and all I'm doing is sweeping the floor and making teas. And I remember my dad just said, make the teas to the best of your ability, sweep the floor to the best of your ability, you'll get noticed, and they'll trust you with more and more stuff. And it's really true. Like, just doing whatever you're allowed to do, if you just do it really, really well, you do get noticed, because actually so many people have the attitude that this is not exactly what I want to be doing. That's not your end goal. And therefore, I have the attitude of not really bothering. And I think that if you really put your all into the smallest of job, even if you're thinking it's below you, so to speak, you know, you really will get noticed, and then very quickly people trust you, and they just give you more and more opportunities, and you can grow so quickly by having the right attitude.
Mm-hmm. Well, that speaks volume of how you just spoke about your parents, and how, you know, their work ethic was so strong. I mean, it speaks volumes to how you were raised. No, you walk into a place, you think, well, I'm asked to clean my room, and I hate that, and now I'm doing it at work. But actually, if I put as much effort as I can in, I will get somewhere.
Yeah.
And most people don't. You know, some people are lucky enough to have that kind of upbringing, and other people don't. But yeah, it definitely speaks volumes of how you were raised.
It's kind of having those small disciplines that I think make you okay with doing the things that you don't really want to do, but seeing the end goal, that there is, you know, there's an end to this if you actually think smartly about it. But yeah, so I sort of always sort of maintained that attitude throughout all of it, and it always paid off. And yeah, I suppose I've just always kind of been very driven like that. And yeah, so then I worked my way up as far as I could go in that salon. And I had a lady there called Debbie, and she was very much, she liked doing a lot of like more of the hairdressing competitions and things like that. But obviously because we were from Waterlooville and it was very small, you know, it's definitely easier when you're working in London. You sort of meet more people.
Come a bit closer to the microphone.
We just sort of you meet more people, I think, when you're in London. So it was a very small village.
Mm-hmm.
But she was really creative, and she really, really enjoyed she really enjoyed the creative side of things. So she definitely started me, I don't know, she sort of begun that sort of crave that I had for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And not being, I definitely felt like I still wanted to be salon based, but there was definitely more to just working in the salon, doing clients every day. And then I saw an advert for Trevor Sorbie was opening his first ever like sister salon in Brighton. So they had the Covent Garden one already. And obviously everyone was really familiar with all of the art team work that they did. And I mean, Angelo Saramaro was there at that point, and they were just doing amazing work and doing incredible international shows. It was just like what I feel was like the peak of their time.
Absolutely.
And yeah, they were advertising in Hairdresser's Journal for their sister salon in Brighton. And I don't know, when I think back now, because I mean, I just applied for it. And when I think back now, I think that was quite ballsy, actually, because I didn't really have, the experience really, but I just went for it. I knew that I didn't want to stay in Portsmouth. I knew that I wanted to be in London. I knew that at that point, because of the creativity work that I was doing, more creative work that I was doing, I felt like I just needed more. And I wasn't going to get that staying in Waterloo or in Portsmouth. It just wasn't going to
I mean, it sounded like you had very strong aspirations from the get-go. So that small town was never going to live up to your expectations, right?
No, yeah. So then I applied for Trevor Sorbie, and I got an interview, which I don't really quite know how. I'd never obviously, because I worked in the salon that I was in from 13, so I was 19 when I got the job with Trevor. So it might have even been a few months before that. I can't remember the exact age, but around 19. So from 13 to 19, I'd been in the same salon, and I'd never had an interview because I was young. I was only sweeping floors. They didn't interview me. They're just like, oh yeah, okay, you can sweep the floor if you want.
You can spell your own name.
Yeah. Well, I don't know actually. No. So I was like, oh my God, I've got an interview with Trevor Sorbie. I had no idea if it was going to be Trevor or whether it was just going to be a manager of the salon. I had to go to Brighton. It was the first time I'd been to Brighton. I was just very I was very young, very innocent. I didn't really step outside of Portsmouth until that point. So it was a big deal. I mean, I'd probably been to London maybe twice at the whole of my lifetime. Do you know what I mean? At that point. So it was a real big deal getting on the train, going on my own, going to Brighton.
Right, and Brighton's a very colourful and different place.
Yeah.
Especially if you're from a small town.
Yeah.
Brighton is very forward-thinking.
Yeah.
And always has been.
Yeah. And I don't even think I'd been to Brighton. So I didn't know the area, and I was having an interview with someone potentially, because I didn't know if he was going to be there, but I had to think he might be there, with someone that I massively respected, that I almost felt in awe of. I was like, I don't know how. I've never had an interview in my life, and now I'm going to be interviewed by someone who I massively respect, and I don't know. I mean, it was very ballsy, very brave. I don't know what came over me really. I don't know how I did it, but I did. I think it was just being young and kind of a bit innocent, not really knowing what to expect really.
Yeah, the naivety helped.
Yeah, I think it did, because I think it allowed me not to worry too much about it. So you get older and you get all these anxieties that come in, but when you're young, you're like, whatever.
Yeah, what's anxiety?
Yeah. What's that funny feeling in my tummy? Oh, it's nothing. So I went to Brighton, and Trevor was there for my interview. So I was quite starstruck, actually. I was like...
Do you remember the first thing that you said to him?
No, I think I just shook his hand and I just said, oh, I wasn't sure if you were actually going to be here. I think I was just really honest with him. I was just a bit like, I don't know. I mean, literally, all I knew deep down is that I really, really wanted the job. And I was happy to, I mean, basically during the interview, we had a lot of chats about just actually like life, really. A lot of life chats, a lot of like my experience, my attitude to my work. And I think that's because looking back at it now, having the experience that I have now, you know, I think Trevor would have looked at my CV and seen that actually potentially experience isn't what's going to be the selling point here. I wasn't working for a top salon. I hadn't entered big competitions. So there was I don't know how I got the interview. How I got the interview, I did not know. But, you know, I definitely, I think I had to I think I wrote like a little thing about why I wanted the job. I think potentially because I just feel like I just don't think my experience would have cut it at the time. And so we had lots of really down-to-earth chats about, and I think he was really kind. He really relaxed me as well, really made me feel relaxed so that I could open up and be myself, which I think he's very good at. And we just clicked. We got on like so well. And he was, I mean, I was in awe. I really respect him as a hairdresser. I think he's incredible. I think what he's done for the industry is amazing. And I was just so, I was just so happy having this conversation with him and actually having this opportunity with him that even if I hadn't got the job, it
was an amazing experience.
It was an amazing experience, yeah. And I was very honest with him and said, this is my first actual interview ever. And, you know, and he was quite shocked about that as well. And, yeah, we just clicked. We just got on really well. And one of the things, after when the interview got to the end, because also the Kate Wilson, who was the salon manager at the time, she was also in the interview. So it was Kate and Trevor. And at the end of the interview, he said, so it was like a bit of a process. So you'd have the interview, and then if you get through to the second part, so they don't give you the job, but second stage of the interview would be that you come to the Covent Garden salon and you bring 5 models and you show them what you can do technically. So the first interview is just obviously about you and your personality and how you are as a person. And then the second round is cutting and showing your actual technical skills.
Which is, you think the interview is terrifying.
Yeah. But again, see, I didn't even when I look back now, I realise how much of a big thing it is. But at the time, even though I was honoured to have the opportunity, don't get me wrong, I 100% realised it was a big deal, but I just did it.
Well, you must have had this inner voice telling you, this is what I'm meant to do. Because otherwise you wouldn't push yourself over the edge, right? You might not have heard it at that age, but it was there pushing you along.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It was just like a real, I suppose all of it, in some ways, I feel like it was all just meant to be, because it just felt so natural to do, even though it was hard, even though, you know, it was a lot and I had to make sure I had all my models. It was just right. That's all I can explain with it, really, I think. So he said at the end of the chat, he just basically said, do you know what? He was like, you're 100% going through to the next stage. And he said, I'm going to be really honest with you. I really like you. The reason why I really like you is because I love your attitude. And he said look, I can teach you hairdressing, no problem. He said, that I can teach. Attitude, I cannot teach. You have the right attitude. I'm 100% taking you through to the next part. And I was like, wow, okay. I mean, amazing. And I got out of the hotel and I was like, rung my mum. I was like, I've got through to the next stage. I've got through to the next stage. And then I basically went shopping for I was like amazed. I felt so independent.
Well, I'm going to get 2 pairs of Levi's now.
Yeah, 2 pairs. Yeah. So, and then the next stage was obviously to go to the salon, take my models.
Do you remember who your models were?
Yeah, well, they were just all, most of them came up from Portsmouth with me because obviously I just knew them as friends, and knew that I could trust them and they're going to turn up, and they were happy to get a free haircut out of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, so they came up with me on the train, and I did the models, and actually he was like, actually, I'm surprised actually at your technical ability. I think is actually a very good standard.
So the salon that you did your initial training with was
actually
good enough for him.
Yeah. So
Which is a huge
I mean,
compliment to them.
he obviously the next stage is your vardering. So you got like, I think it was 3 months of training, intense training.
Okay.
So I suppose he knew he was going to be able to retrain me, so to speak. But I think you have to be at a certain level. And what I had said to Trevor previously, because I wanted the job so much and I knew I needed the foot in the door, I was happy to go back as an assistant. I was applying to be a stylist, but I was happy to go back as an assistant if I needed to, just because I respected everyone that worked for Trevor. I respected massively, and I could see that they were way better than me technically. I mean, like, there's no break. It was like, yeah, of course they are. And I was happy to just go back to the beginning. I knew I wouldn't be there long. I knew I would work hard and I would get myself back to being a stylist in no time, because I would make sure that it happens. So I wasn't worried about going back to the beginning, which I think is another thing that he really respected, because one, I was showing respect to who he has in his salon. I wasn't thinking myself as
the next Angelo.
No, exactly.
Right.
All I was thinking is, I know for me to get the right education and the right experience, I needed to be in the right place and the right salon to get to where what I pictured myself being as I went, much further down the line. So for me, I was just like, this is a no-brainer for me. I'll start right from the bottom if I have to, but I need to get my foot in the door. So I think he respected that fully as well, which is what I think he felt was strong, why he said about the whole attitude and stuff. I think he felt like I had the right attitude, that I was very happy to motivate myself and drive myself forward, and I think he could see I was happy to work hard to get where I wanted to be.
Yeah, I think Trevor's almost installed that in everybody that he's worked with, because I remember working with Sally and Jamie. They had a very similar approach.
Yeah.
It was, do we like you? Are you a easy person to deal with, or are you a crazy person to deal with?
Yeah.
If you're easy but we can train you, then we can turn you into a great hairdresser.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting how his teachings have sort of echoed throughout the whole industry.
I think so.
And it's just a real testament to him as a person. And I've never met anybody that's said anything bad about him.
No.
And I mean, to have a career for however many years, 40, 50 years, that's a long time for, people to get to know you. So it really speaks to who he is as a person.
100%.
But I totally understand what it's like with the whole vardering thing. Because when I went down to go and do my vardering with Sally and Jamie, Sally kind of looked at me to think like, oh yeah, you think you can cut hair, do you? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I can. Jono was the opposite to me. Yeah, I can actually.
Yeah. So cocky. Oh my God. And, but I think cocky in a healthy way, because I think the naivety and just being young and kind of stupid. I mean, boys are definitely way more stupid than girls at 19, because I went down to London when I just turned 19. Yeah. And finding those models in Topshop and being kicked out of Topshop and finding
Topshop was the best place though.
The best place.
It's so good. And where's it gone?
I know. Anyway, but but it was amazing to hear your process, because it's very similar to what I went through, and it is Trevor's echo throughout the whole industry that has carried that through. And I'm sure there's many other salons that do the same thing, all because of him.
100%. And even like Eugene Solomon, like he came from Trevor Sorby.
Right.
And I think that his way, like, even just like he's very much like clean section is a happy section, and all things like that. Like I feel like the fundamental methodical training is so powerful, and I think it's installed into everyone that Trevor has taught along the way. And I also think that because it's not easy, it's not an easy route, and the vardering is really intense, and everything is checked. So, I mean,
it's almost militant, no?
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, there's one
Yeah.
hair out of place. It's not that bad.
yeah,
But then when you look at the quality around the room, you think to yourself, well, there's never been a hair out of place for 10 years.
yeah,
So I'm
Yeah.
not going to be that person.
no. It's second to none. The vardering training there, when I was there, was like amazing. So I actually had Trevor and Angelo do my test, my final test.
Insane. How many people are checking? How many people can say that? Maybe 10?
It was horrible. So it's like, you know, and I was spending like, you know, they were like, you know, expect to do a one length bob, expect like that to go on for like 10 hours. And I'm like, pardon? Like during my training session, like you do it all day. Why would I do a bob all day? Like, what do you mean?
And the poor girl that's
The
there.
models.
Oh.
I know. Little did they know when you're like, can you have a free haircut? And then they're like, I've got to get back to work. And you're like, just another hour.
Yeah, no, you won't be able to walk by the time I've done your bob, you know?
So yeah, like I would spend hours and hours and checking and pushing the head in different directions, making sure there was no graduation, like to get this absolutely bang on perfect one length bob.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, this is normal. This is how long you're going to take on each model. And, you know, that's what you've got to do. And then eventually when you pass your test, you'll then build your time back up, like because you'll know it so well that by the time you start cutting and you're a stylist and you're fully trained, you'll then become faster because you've done it so much, so methodically that you can then do the perfect one length in your 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
Which was challenging at the beginning, I have to admit.
Very. I don't think I could do it now.
I definitely can't do it now that I'm a session stylist. I spend hours doing one haircut now.
I know.
I'm not in the speed of it anymore.
No chance. I mean, my mom still does 30-minute appointments.
Yeah,
everything.
I just don't know how.
They're all lined up. One's got a perm in, the other one's got a set. There's a cut going on.
I've always struggled with 45 minutes appointments though. I think an hour. I mean, I don't know what the industry standard is now in salons. I think it's a little bit more flexible now, but obviously when we were in the salons, it was bang on 45 minutes back to back.
Oh yeah, and the customer expected to be out as well.
I know.
I was the one that had everyone waiting.
I just don't know how. I don't know. I definitely can't do it anymore anyway. Definitely not.
But you went from, so you ended up going into Trevor saw something in you, and you did your vardering, you did your training, you passed to maybe the most difficult examiners that anybody could possibly have. Maybe missing out 5 other names in the whole industry. I wouldn't want them to look at my haircut. Definitely not now, anyway.
Yeah, me not now. Definitely not now.
But so you've gone through all of that, and then you've seen what the art team. Well, you saw what the art team were doing beforehand, and then obviously you thought to yourself, "Oh, maybe one day I'll be part of the art team and I'll be doing the shows with them." Do you remember what your first show was with them? Did you get asked to do a look, or were you passing pins? Like, how did it work?
So to start off with, and I can't remember exactly how it came about now, but Trevor asked me if I wanted to come and assist them when he was doing his international shows. So they were amazing, and I don't think Trevor's done them for a little while, but back when I was there, it was like a big thing, and Trevor was traveling internationally and he was doing these incredible shows, and it was, at the time, no one was doing anything like it. So he was cutting on stage and he'd have these great models that were basically dancers, and he'd finish the haircut and then they'd like rip off their gown and then they'd do this dance to, like, I don't know, Beyonce or something. But it was great. It was such an entertaining show, and no one else was doing anything like that. And he'd do like really unique little styles on stage that no one's seen before. It was just amazing. And so he asked if I wanted to go, and I think it was Italy or somewhere like that. It was somewhere around Europe. So I went with them, and we had this big, like, almost a bit like a tour bus type thing, and we were all together, like, so Angelo and some of the other people on the art team. So I wasn't part of the art team at this point. It was very, very new, but I think he saw that I was very hungry I think he saw that I just stood out a little bit in terms of my need to want to go forward. Or my want, I was so hungry for it. And I think he saw that. So I think he thought, let's show her what it could be. So I had the opportunity to do that quite early. And then what happened? I did that with him and I loved it. Learnt loads. And then after that, I then decided that I wanted to enter British Hairdressing. Yeah, British Hairdresser Year Awards.
Also, it was that quick. You started having experience of the shows, and you saw the trophies, and you thought, my name is going to be engraved on that thing.
I was just so,
You're practicing your speech.
I just really wanted to get into the competitions and stuff because I could see Angelo doing them all, and he was winning so many.
Everything. And
I was just like, and obviously Trevor had won British Hairdresser Year Awards like how many times running, and all the trophies were in the Covent Garden salon. And I just wanted to do it. And so I did Newcomer of the Year Awards, which I think, was it under 25? So I can't remember. It must have been because I was definitely under 25. Mm-hmm. And I did my collection. And I think, Jono, you can relate to this because I think Brooks & Brooks is the same. But at Trevor Sorbie, you don't get a budget to do your competition work. So
forget it. Yeah.
Has to be done. Like your contacts, you find a photographer, you find your models, and you either pay for it all or you find someone that you collaborate and you get a team together that are going to do it for free. So I pulled together a team, makeup artists, models, everything. My friend, she was a model booker. And so she gave me some real new faces that I'd never done any work before. So she wanted to just build their portfolio. And so I got a photographer, did the shoot, and my images, you weren't allowed to enter anything unless Trevor had seen your images. So Trevor has to approve all the images. And so I just did your first 4. I think it's the first 4 that you have to send in for British Hairdressing Awards.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So I did my first 4, and he basically, I didn't show him. My manager showed him, and he basically thought it was Angelo's work, which I can't even believe he was like, now that's really nice. Angelo did this, right?
Wow.
And my manager was like, no, this is Anna's work. And I was like, and she told me after, and he came and told me after as well because he couldn't believe it was me.
Blown away.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't believe it was. I didn't think it was that. You know what I mean? I didn't think that myself of my own work, but I was quite happy to take it that he thought it was. So, and then he said, yeah, 100%, we're going to back this. Like you go, if you get through, then we'll help you with the second lot of the 4. The next part of
Amazing.
So, and I got through, and then I won I won it, which was like, I couldn't believe I won it.
And this was your first awards that you'd ever entered?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my first one. Then after that, I entered L'Oreal Colour Trophy for the men's, and I won that one.
Of
that
course.
was amazing.
2
and then
he
was like, then Trevor was like, you've got it now, haven't you? Now you got a little bit of it now. Now you want the next one and the next one and the next one. And I was like, yeah, this feels good. I'm up for this.
He knows how it feels.
Then I got addicted. And then since then, I've never stopped working really hard. Addicted to success.
I'm trying to figure out in all of this when we met, because
I know when it was.
Do you remember? Because I was trying to rack my brains and I could not remember the story of how we met. I feel like it was at Salon International. But if it's...
No.
See, my
What's your story of that?
My story of
I'm
that...
interested because I don't remember this one.
I remember... maybe we'd already met, but I think my earliest memory is probably, to put it better, is that we were all at Salon International and Brooks & Brooks had done a show, and you guys are doing a show, and you and Petros were doing a look from your London collection, and it was the one with the metal.
The
Through
triangles.
braids, through the triangles.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you and being like, bloody hell, that's pretty good. Did
I do that on stage?
I think
Was
you
I
did
doing that
I think
look?
you did a version of it. Or
Yeah.
you showed me the pictures of,
Mm.
I can't remember what it was, but I remember meeting you and being like, oh, bloody hell, like these two are good. You know, and they're nice. Like, you know, they're not like, you know, divas.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, obviously Brooks and Brooks, Trevor Sorby are not rivals, but we look at what each other does because it's a healthy competition is the best way to put it.
100%, yeah.
But that's my earliest memory. What's yours?
I thought it was when we did the Central St. Martin's show together. Was that not our first time?
I don't know. Which one was that?
I can't remember the exact show. You know when you just do it, because it's all for the graduates, isn't it? So I don't know exactly what show it was, but it was for their graduate show.
Oh, I do remember doing it, but I don't.
And, you know, you had your little undercut and your top knot.
Of course I did. Tragic. Every footballer's got that now.
You didn't start the fashion, Jono.
Come
on.
I know. Well, I was trying to claim it, but, you know.
No, so I'm sure that it was then. I mean, maybe we met at Salon International, but I remember that's when, because we had to work together. Do you not remember that?
No.
Do you not remember that?
My memory is terrible, but
we were like
through doing this, I'm regaining some of it.
Okay. This is when I started to feel like I wanted to get in the session industry. So I'd already been part of the art team. Mm-hmm. After winning, so I won Newcomer, won Colour Trophy for men's. Mm-hmm. At that point, Trevor asked me to be part of the art team. Mm-hmm. So then I was part of the art team then, and I was working and I was doing a lot of work like for the images for the salon, images for the electrical tools. I was involved also with the product development side of things, having meetings with them with that. And I just really enjoyed not doing clients every single day. You know, just being a little bit more creative and being outside of the salon, I felt was really refreshing and nice. And I started to feel, I think this is more me. Mm-hmm. You know, I loved doing my clients, but I found it really, really refreshing doing a little bit of everything, you know. So my creative work, a little bit of business side, I found it really fascinating listening to all the product development side of things, like, because obviously Trevor was with Boots at the time.
Of course.
So there was lots of meetings about that. And I found it really fascinating, like all the PR and things like that. So the business element and then the creative element of doing the imagery and also the marketing element of that, because obviously for the products that are held in Boots, you know, you're actually mainly aiming at consumers and not professional.
Of course. So
then it's very different, and it's just really interesting to learn a different, you know, layer of our hairdressing industry, you know. So that's when I started to feel like I wanted to get into session. And then that's when L'Oreal, because Trevor was a L'Oreal account holder, we had obviously great connections with L'Oreal, and that's when they said they obviously sponsor and do the Central St. Martin shows, and I started doing their shows, and then I started doing shows that were sponsored by L'Oreal, like Fashion Week shows that were sponsored by L'Oreal. But that's when I thought that was the first time we met. It's funny that we've both got two different stories.
So funny. And they're not that far apart, though, no? Because I think it was around then that you guys...
It was around then, yeah.
Yeah, because I vaguely remember.
I remember that show because I was like... Because we had to team up and do the look together. We worked together. How do you not remember that?
Wow.
I was like, I need to work with someone good. Right, scan the room. It's like, he's from Brooks & Brooks. I think he'll be the same. And I can't believe you don't remember this. What
was the look? I don't even remember the look.
It was something sleek. I can't remember exactly, but I remember it was very, it was really detailed, and both of us were very methodically trained. So both of us were very happy to like take it slowly, take the section, brush it through. We were like, and psychos. I was like, I can work with you. Do you know what I mean?
A couple of psychos.
Yeah. You were just as a perfectionist as me. So we were like, and I think for me, that was the moment I was like, you're good. Like I can work with you because you can't, when you're so particular and precise about everything, if you're working with someone that just wants to do it quick, it's like really annoying.
Yeah. And it wasn't the days of TikTok and Instagram being so big, but you could just imagine the people that would rather just take a picture of themselves doing a ponytail, you know.
Exactly. I was like, I need someone that's on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me when I remember us working together.
No way. Yeah. That's so funny.
Then you went away somewhere. You were going away somewhere because I remember saying you doing Fashion Week or whatever, and you were like, "Oh, you were going somewhere." I feel like you left the salon. Did you leave Brooks and Brooks for a bit or something?
No, I would go on these hiatuses, go into different countries, and I would disappear.
I think
for 5
you were
minutes.
Doing something like that.
Yeah. I do that every few years. I have a
moment
a
to
mini
yourself.
life crisis.
God, wait till you actually get to that age.
I know.
Yeah.
I've had plenty, so by the time it gets there, it should be all settled down, you know. But no, I can't remember. I can't remember where I went, but it was it wasn't long after that you started getting more heavily into session, right? Because then you started working with Anthony Turner.
Yes. So that was through L'Oreal.
That was through L'Oreal.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're connecting the dots.
Yeah.
So yeah, L'Oreal have been quite pivotal in
100%
putting you into that direction.
100%, yeah. And I think you have to put yourself in these positions as well. So L'Oreal are amazing, and they've always been incredibly supportive of, help open some amazing doors for me and some amazing opportunities, as did Trevor Sorby as well. But you have to put yourself out there. Like you have, like there are, I mean, how many account holders that they have, they can't, you have to make yourself be known that you are wanting this. And, you'll do anything to be there. You'll make sure you represent yourself, well for them, because, I mean, so I was very proactive, and they've always been really, really supportive. And so, they sort of, because they had Anthony Turner as an ambassador at that point.
Right.
And so he was getting sponsored by a lot of London shows. And I went along to one of his shows. I think it was, no, Chloe was the one in Paris. What was he doing in London? He did
JW.
Yeah, JW. I think I did 2 with him, and it was so embarrassing. I didn't know what I was doing, which is one of the reasons why I have Backstage Bootcamp course, and also another webinar that I'm just launching at the moment. But I knew nothing about the transition from salon into session work. And I was very much, everything, all my training had been salon. And as you know, it's so different. Like the skills that you need to know and the skills that you use on a daily basis aren't what you do in the salon. The whole customer service thing goes out the window. And when you're a salon hairdresser, it's drummed into you to have good customer service and take everyone's coats and check everyone wants a tea and la la la. And it's all, that is very much part of what you do in a salon. Like it's like 50-50 of a service and your technical ability.
Absolutely.
Whereas in session, it's more about your, obviously there we can go into massive depth, which we can maybe go into another podcast, but obviously there's your consultation skills and your customer service skills come into another level, I think, in the session world when you are dealing directly with the client, if you're working for a brand, because I think that's really important to have that level of skill of being able to communicate really well, which I think is great when you are a salon-based hairdresser because of your experience with consultations. So really making sure you know what the brand or client wants is basically the same process, I feel. Absolutely. But initially when you're assisting and you're working at Fashion Week, I mean, there's no time for customer service. It's just not even needed. So it feels very cutthroat. It feels like you're having to reverse everything that's been drummed into you and just start all over again. And I was advised to bring everything in my kit. I had I didn't have anyone to ask. Angelo was at Streeters and an amazing session stylist, as well as being in the salon, but didn't tell me anything. Literally didn't tell me anything. And I had no one to ask. There's no one to ask. You can't ask anyone. You know, you just chucked in at the deep end. And
so what did you take with you?
I mean, it's really embarrassing. I turned up with a bright pink, like, holiday case.
Of course.
And I thought, well, I just need to take everything. And someone had said to me that, you know, take everything. Take all your tongs, take your heated rollers. I mean, who has heated rollers backstage at President? Who has time to put heated rollers in? That is never going to happen.
It's not the 80s anymore.
Like, so I opened up my case. I arrived at Fashion Week with Anthony. Never met Anthony before in my life. Again, this was only through L'Oreal. Never done Fashion Week. Never done anything like it. Opened up my bright pink case, which is obviously really noticeable anyway, like really embarrassing. Opened up my case, you know, got my heated rollers and like all these brushes that I didn't end up needing, and just like very embarrassing.
Just over-prepared.
Excited. Over-prepared, but I suppose better to be over-prepared than under-prepared, right?
Yeah.
So
I have a friend who remained nameless that we both know.
Okay.
And he would turn up to shows, even later on when we were working together. He would turn up with nothing. Just a comb in his pocket.
I'm going to have to ask you later.
And every time they walked through, I was like, oh, where's your stuff? Oh, you know, a comb.
How did they get away with that?
Amazing. Did hundreds of shows like that.
Well, that is not a good idea.
So
see, I do not promote that via session kit. Be prepared.
That's not on the course,
That's
no.
not, no. Yeah, so, I can't remember. So then...
So then you began getting involved in the session. You realised what you needed. You realised what it took, and you kind of went off into the session world quite deep, no? Because you didn't just work with Anthony. You ended up working with Eugene, and you worked with I'm sure a host of other people.
Yeah, I did. So it was at the beginning. So Anthony Turner was so lovely. Very, very, very sweet, kind person, and actually the best person to start off with as well, because he was so friendly, and you know, was not ever intimidating. And so I suppose he was really nurturing and allowed me to build my confidence when I had none at that time. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was happy to admit I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I just wanted it, you know. And so he was amazing, because that allowed me to start off with someone that, would really encourage me to go forward and not scare the living daylights out of me and make me stop. So he was amazing. And actually, I had a moment with him when that's how I started going forward with him, was that during our show, I think it was the second show that I worked with him, and he wanted the hair to... I think it was a Topshop show actually, and he wanted the hair to bend sort of backwards, but equally, obviously, you know, you don't want anything to look too blow dried and too done, and I think now again it was another situation where it was quite ballsy, and I felt actually almost it's like that fine line of someone sort of speaking up when you probably shouldn't. Mm-hmm. But doing it in the right way. And I think I just read the room well and knew that he was the type of person that wouldn't think I was overstepping the mark. Mm-hmm. And so he was sort of telling us to do it a certain way. And I was sort of, I suppose just my technical ability, I just knew that I could do what he wanted. But I knew just because of the type of hair this model had, the way he was asking wouldn't work for that type of hair. Mm-hmm. And so I was just doing it in a slightly different way, but actually 100% creating the end result, what he wanted. But again, when I look back at that now, that isn't something that I would actually advise someone to do, mm-hmm. you know, and was a big thing. But because I think I was so innocent and didn't know really, but I suppose I just was able to read the room, and I did it in the right way. And he was a nice person. Mm-hmm. the two, you know, it made it okay, and actually worked in my favor, because then he was like, literally, he came over and was sort of said, oh, you know, I kind of want it done like this. And then I spoke up and said, oh, like, you know, 100%, I know you want it this way, but because her hair's like this, it's not really doing it. But if I just twist it like this, it's going to do the same thing. And I think because he was a really nice person and just realised that I wasn't being funny, and I 100% could understand that he wanted it. I was doing it, I was getting the end result, what he wanted. And I think he was actually just quite impressed that I had the technical skills and the confidence to know what I could do. It just worked in my favour at the time, but I wouldn't say to do that to all sessions. It was a bit of a gamble. And he was like, afterwards, he was just like, thank you so much for doing that. Like, it really made sense. And I can see you, you know, you have, you know, great technical skills. And I want really strong people, because I'm about to do Chloe in Paris. And I would love it if you could come to Paris with me. And that, for me, then that was it then.
Then you're on the bandwagon.
Then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Paris. And Richard Philippart was also on the same show with Anthony, and also had got asked to go to Paris. So we quickly took each other's number, because for both of us it was new. We'd never been to Paris to work on the shows. And we just basically exchanged numbers, texting each other about where we were going to stay. We were only going out there to do Anthony's shows, because we were very inexperienced. We really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to approach agencies to get more work, more shows. We was just going out there, like, get there, earn the experience and see what happens, and like learn as we go. And so we booked a really expensive hotel that was terrible, like gross, but really expensive. Obviously, absolutely 100% goes without saying, I absolutely made no money. In fact, I completely lost money, because I paid so much for the Eurostar, because it was so last minute, and your hotel. But for me, it just wasn't about that. I just wanted the experience.
Yeah, you were searching for something bigger again.
100%.
That drive that took you from Portsmouth to Brighton.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I was just so hungry for it. And I thought Anthony was amazing. I think he was so talented. I still think he's amazing. I still think he's really talented. And I just wanted to make sure that, again, obviously I'd done this training with someone else that I'd massively admired, both Angelo and Trevor and everyone on the art team. And I felt like I was getting to the end of everything there. I felt like I'd learned everything, and I'd soaked everything up like a sponge. And now I was like,
next. Yeah.
What's next, you know? And Anthony really inspired me, as did all of the other session stylists that I worked with. And then from that point onwards, I learned on the go, really, on the job. And I was doing lots of editorials with Anthony back in London. So working for editorials and show with Anthony. And then I started, then I would go out for Milan and Paris for the whole season. And I would always prioritise Anthony. But in any show, any gaps that I didn't have Anthony, I would then work on everyone's team. So did Sam McKnight, did Eugene. Who else did we do? Eugene. I mean, Guido was last, because we both ended up on Guido's core team, but he was last, wasn't he? But I'm trying to think of all the others that we did.
I did a few with James Pessius.
Yeah, James.
Holly Smith.
Yeah.
Sid Hayes.
Yeah.
I
feel like mine was mainly Anthony then. Anthony and Sam McKnight I did.
Yeah,
I did Duffy at once.
It was more the English, Duffy as well.
Yeah.
It was more the English crowds that we were working with.
Yeah.
I never really got the opportunity to work with, the French artists or the other
No, I
internationals.
didn't. No. Yeah.
It was. I suppose it's just language barrier for one, and plus they had very set teams, and it felt
they had international teams. That's the difference.
Exactly. Yeah, and it almost felt like. Stick with what you know. It's already scary enough.
Yeah.
We're trying to
Don't need to add to it. Add to the anxiety of Fashion Week.
And you're trying to find your place. You know, you're trying to figure out where you fit.
Yeah.
And you can start off with one artist and you can play around and be with other people and people find their group. But, you know, you ended up working with Guido, and that was another immediate thing for you, no? It seems that everybody that you meet, that you come into contact with, that they spend some time with you, they realize, okay, this is someone that I need around. So first it was Trevor, then it was Anthony.
Yeah.
And then
Guido.
not too long after, really, within short succession, Guido gave you the call.
Yeah.
And how did that go down?
What, with Anthony, you mean?
Or
as in my
no. It's more
political.
No, I think people understands that, like, you know, when you are working on shows, and as someone that has done you know, led teams myself, you understand that people have other things going on, and that, you know, other people's world is not your world. And Anthony's a lovely person and humble enough to know that as well.
100%,
He completely understands that world. But I'm just curious how the Guido thing happened.
So, because I think we were out there together, weren't we? So it was me, you, and Richard and Kim Rance.
Yes.
Yeah.
The four. Four idiots. Where, bearing in mind, it was basically too much food, too much alcohol,
Milka
chocolate, very late nights. To the point of where I was so hungover for one show, and it was the first show that I ever did with James Pessis. This is when we were in Milan, and I was so hungover that I couldn't feel my hand.
Oh my God, Jono, why do you do these things? You make me panic.
And I remember it was the first time I met a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Mitchell.
Oh yeah, Ryan.
And he saw me and he thought, oh, another guy. Like, and he was chatting my ear off like no one's business. And I thought to myself, who is this Australian person talking at me? All I want to do is do this ponytail, try not to throw up, and go home.
Leave me alone. I've got the shakes.
I can't even feel my hand, you know. But it was it was the four of us doing every city. And I remember, because obviously you have time off and you have downtime, and you think to yourself, oh, I'll go to a museum, and you go to a few museums and you're like, oh, who cares about a couple of paintings? I want to get out there and do hair, you know. That's the reason why I'm here.
Well, we were there to learn, and you do spend a lot of money. Like I said, it's not something you're going to particularly make money from, and until you are really established either as a core team, or you have your certain artists that you know you're going to get booked on.
Right.
Whereas, you know, when you're going out there, like we were at the very beginning, you don't know who's going to confirm and who's not. So you might end up with a day that you had 4 shows, you know, and that's going to cover your hotel of being there for 4 nights, and then all of them release. So, you know, you just don't know. You know, it wasn't about the money, basically. It was just about the education and the learning and the experience. Or that's definitely how I saw it.
Absolutely. And I think that's how our generation thought about it. I think it's a little different now. I mean, I understand it's more difficult with people, you know, making money is difficult.
Yeah.
And especially in the, you know, depending where you're based, it is hard to make a living. And if you're doing shows, it's part of your living.
Yeah.
But before, for us, it was the education.
Yeah, it was. I think because we had the salon background, we had our money sort of coming in from that, which I was still very much at the salon.
Yeah.
And I would just use up all my holidays and go do the shows in my holidays. So I'd end up being really overworked because I had no time off. But, you know, it was valuable for me. And I think it was a smart way of doing it because I was still earning money through the salon. And so for me, it was like my university. It was like I could spend my money on further education to get myself to where I am now. And I think you have to think smartly about that because you need the money. Everyone needs the money. It's even more so now. It's like insane how, you know, inflation has gone up and, you know, our wages haven't. And it's so expensive to live in London.
It is really difficult. But I suppose it is how you look at things, no? Because what you just said, we did look at it as our PhD. This was like, this is our PhD and we're going to learn the elite level of doing hair. So then we can take this back either to the salon or we could do those other jobs as advertising and lookbook and e-com jobs in 100%. The UK. And then you're making more money, and it is an investment.
100%. And you have to do it. I mean, we're lucky that, people pay to go to university.
Right.
We don't pay. I don't pay to assist Guido. He paid me. And yes, at that point, yes, I was earning money because I was on the core team. So I was consistently booked. But even before that point, to me, I contacted and reached out to Eugene Solomon's first assistant. Actually, it wasn't his first assistant because Alfie was his first assistant, but I knew my Petros from Trevor Sorby, knew Jamie, who was a girl that was really high up, hairdresser, amazing hairdresser on Eugene's team. But she was kind of like a second assistant. She wasn't really a first, but she was always there with him, and she's so talented. And she, Petros knew her personally because they were both from Coventry. And so he reached out to her for me because he followed her on Instagram and was, fairly good friends. And he reached out for her and to her for me and said, look, Anna's so keen to work with Eugene. Because there was nowhere. I kept applying, kept contacting streeters, but I was not getting a foot in the door.
Yeah. Back then, it was almost like there was these gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Of no one, but an email.
Yeah.
And there's probably no one on the other side.
It was mad. Like literally, I was just emailing, and it just felt like no one got back to me at all. And I was like, I'm here all week. I'll come and do a show. Like, and nothing. We'll get back to you. We haven't got anything at the moment. Nothing.
Not a single reply. The funny thing is when I sent out my emails, there was just lie upon lie about what I'd done, because I thought that's the only way that I'm going to get a response. And it's true. The more I lied about how much I did in the email, the more responses I got.
Oh, really?
So this is the game that you had to play.
Okay.
And it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
no? Because it shouldn't be like that. If that's one thing that agencies can definitely do better is if they open their doors just a fraction wider. There's so many talented people that are quite shy and maybe not as ballsy or as stupid as we are.
I think you go further than me, actually, John. I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was terrible. But you know what? I thought I was the same as you, hungry enough that I'm willing to put myself out there on a limb just to get a response. And if they responded, I always came clean. But then you're in the door.
Well, that's all you need, really, at the end of the day, is your foot in the door to actually show that you're incredibly respectful, you can do the work, I felt confident in my technical skills, but I know I needed to learn so much more as well, but it was more of like a taste thing rather than technical.
Exactly.
And yeah, I eventually managed to get onto Eugene's team via Jamie. And because Eugene had been commenting on my Instagram images, which I was amazed by when I get this, I don't know what they were, like bomb, emojis or something. And I was like, oh my God, he loves my work. So that was, that was amazing. So I knew he'd sort of acknowledged my background and that I was from Trevor, and obviously he was from Trevor. Trevor's, he worked there way many years ago before I was there. And so I was just hoping that connection would help him understand that I have been trained really well and to give me a chance. But obviously nothing was happening via streeters. And then Jamie gave me the opportunity. And then when I was there, he actually had my first show with him. He had to do the demo on my hair because...
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he's like, sit down, I'll do your ponytail. Snatched me up super high in this cone, full on ponytail, which I then had to just keep throughout the show and felt like a right idiot. And then,
I hope there's some BTS of that.
Yeah, and then, get this, and then so he does the hair look on me, and then he says, go get a model and go do the look. And I said to him, I haven't seen how it's been done. I don't, because it was done on me. So I could hear what he was doing, but I needed to watch him. This was my first ever show with him, and I know how precise he is.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to see exactly what he did, and I didn't see any of it. I didn't see how he bound the elastic.
Mm-hmm.
I was just watching in the mirror, but that's not the same.
No.
But no, he was like, "That's all right. Just go get a model." I was like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. I said it. I said, I need to what? I said, would you mind if I just watch Jamie do one and then I'll go get a model? And he said to me, literally, he was like, I've seen your work. You can do it. Go get a model. I was like, I'm very grateful that you believe in me, but I don't think I believe in myself. I was like, so I just got a model and I did it. But yeah, and it was actually fine. But yeah, you know, it's like.
So it's almost like a test, no? He was almost like seeing
Probably.
if you could handle the pressure.
Probably.
It's funny how these people try different techniques to see if you can handle it.
Yeah.
And if you can, it's like, okay, I can trust this
Yeah.
person.
So she can work under that
She might
pressure.
be walking around with a cone on her head.
So embarrassing. I felt like such an idiot. And then the people were like, get in line up, love. And I'm like, no.
No. Yeah.
I am actually the hairdresser with this hairstyle.
Yeah. This isn't a look. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was amazing, actually, my experience with Eugene. And he, after that point, then my foot was in the door then. And he then actually contacted me. Alfie was his first assistant, and Alfie contacted me on a day that I didn't have any shows on, and he was like, look, can you help us out? The model count's gone up, are you available? And I think, you know, and I was like, yeah, 100%. Now, I wasn't getting paid for that show, and I didn't even mention it. I didn't care. I just don't think, I'm not advocating people should work for free. I'm just saying that in that moment, if you don't strike while the iron's hot and you're worried about getting paid, if you're there anyway, and this really isn't, it actually wasn't really costing me anything. Yes, I should have got paid, but to me, it was so valuable. It just being there and learning from him. And he then knew that I wanted it as well. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's like the key thing nowadays with assisting. I think there has to be an element where 100% assistants are paid, 100%, because it's really challenging and everyone needs to pay their bills. But I think somehow through the confusion of, you know, working for free and not working for free and all this like stigma, I think it's just really important that sometimes when you give up your time for the experience, I think it's how you look at it, isn't it? Like if it's a really big job and you are going to learn so much, that you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on working with a massive brand, with a massive stylist, with an incredible session stylist that you're going to learn. You can just watch and learn. You are never, ever going to have that opportunity. No course would give you that opportunity. You know, Duffy, Eugene, you know, I mean, Eugene's just done the Wig Academy one, but, you know, until that point, no one at that level is going to have the time to do any education. So the only way you're going to learn from those people is by doing Fashion Week or assisting them. And sometimes I think you need to show that you are in it because you really want it, and it's not this
You're not
session
looking for
styling.
compensation.
Yeah. And session styling isn't just a job. Like, it's intense.
It's a lifestyle. It's a life choice. It's a way of life.
Yeah. It's same as hairdressing. It's same as working in a salon. It's, you know, like they say, hairdressers are, you know, most like happiest. It's like it's something that you want to do. I mean, working in a salon, when I was working in a salon, and I don't know now, maybe it's very different, but I wasn't earning a ton of money when I was working in a salon.
Oh no. Especially in the beginning.
No, exactly. And I think I did it because I loved it. And I think that's the key thing to remember, is that you're doing this because you love it and you can't put a price on that.
Yeah, the reason why I turned up every day to, you know, you just moved to London, prices are very different from Birmingham, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, okay, I've got £1,100 a month. Rent's 500, so now I've got this left. I need beer money.
Yeah. Obviously. Very important.
Yeah. Pizza money, because it's all frozen pizza, you know. And then you think to yourself, well, why am I doing this? And actually, that thought never crossed my mind, because I was having so much fun. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Being around people that you admire and you hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And then you getting to go on trips.
Yeah.
It's the money doesn't even enter your mind.
No.
Never.
See, this is the thing for me. Like, for me personally, everything was to get to where I am now, and I'm still developing and I'm still growing. But for me, I feel so grateful now. I feel like I've learned from the most incredible, renowned hairdressers of the industry. Like, literally from salon into session, I've learned from all of them, and I feel so grateful to have that opportunity. And now I'm doing, I'm now with Julian Watson, and I'm loving life, really. I mean, it's literally like, for me, I'm doing a job that I absolutely love. And I know there's so many people out there that do jobs that they aren't happy with, and they're getting up every morning feeling really rubbish about going into work, but they have to, because they have to pay their bills, and they've got massive mortgages now. Sorry. And everything's really challenging. And they have to go to work. Whereas for me, I literally don't feel like I'm at work, and I'm getting paid to be there. And I also, I do have, with the way session styling works, you have some weeks when you're like chock-a-block every single day, and then you have a week where you've maybe got 2 or 3 days of work. Do you know what I mean? So it's not every single day, which I'm sure for someone like Guido, it probably is every single day, but but for me, that is a lovely balance. For me, I think I'm just so grateful that I get that opportunity to go to work, feel happy, get paid, also have some down days. Like, actually, I don't have down days. That's a complete lie. But everyone, if they didn't have a child and another job, they'd have a down day.
The idea of it is there.
Yeah.
The possibility. But the thing is, like, you wouldn't have been able to get to that point. You wouldn't be able to get to this point where you've basically crafted a life for yourself, doing the thing that you love doing. And it's because of all the time that you put into it beforehand. And it's putting yourself out there, putting yourself into, not the easiest situations, sharing with friends in apartments. And
sharing with you, Jono.
I know.
It's a big ask.
I know. I mean, we've been around the world together. No, we've been... Actually, the first job that we did together with Guido, you were already doing the job. And I got a phone call from some lady at Red Ken that I'd never met. Do you want to go to Japan tomorrow? I said, okay.
Okay.
And I text you, and you're like, yeah, I'm going. I was like, okay, let's go together. And that was an amazing, amazing
that was
experience.
Amazing.
Incredible. And, doing that hair where it was the braided rings that were asymmetrically placed.
It was Dior, wasn't it?
One of Rap's first shows.
Yeah.
And Guido told us all that we were terrible.
Yeah.
The whole room. He was like, if you idiots don't get it together.
Make it asymmetrical.
Yeah. And I'm looking at him thinking, I've never stuck wire in somebody's head before. Are you insane? And using this gel, and I'm allergic to everything, and I was getting an allergy to the gel. Yeah,
you were getting allergies.
It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And but we did it in the end, and what an amazing experience. And it kind of went from there, and we ended up traveling the world together on the team, and that was a lot of fun. Very fun. It was brilliant.
It was amazing. I think it was like the best time of my career, actually. Yeah. Like, in terms of my age, I'm a mum now, and we'll probably get into that, but like, I was just free, and it was perfect age for me. And we were traveling to so many amazing countries and learning from Guido. And yes, it's not easy. It's not easy work. It's long hours. It's intense. You're working, he's working with the best and the biggest brands. You have to make sure you deliver. It is not, I remember one show actually, which I'll say, which is just sort of sums up the situations that you're in sometimes, when I think it was Valentino, and he wanted this sort of like airy, light, fuzzy, dusty, ethereal hairline.
Make it look like a painting.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And, but this model had a thick fringe, like short, thick fringe, like from here coming down. Like, where do I get rid of the hair? Like, what do I do? How do I make that light and ethereal and like, you know, it's just, I don't know how to do this, you know. And I got Guido over and I said, right, so she's got a fringe. And he just literally went, and I went, so how should I go about this? How should I go about getting rid of the, he said, unless you want to go tell the client that one of them's got a fringe, so they can't have it, then figure it out. And I was like, okay.
Fair enough.
Right. Okay, let's get the thinking cap on. Like, it was just like, it's just not negotiable. Like, these brands are huge and you're not going to tell them it's not possible. So figure it out.
And you can't defer to dad.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Dad's not going to help this time.
No one's going to help this time.
No.
And no one on the team's going to help either. You just they're like, oh, you sort that one out. You sort it out yourself.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. Some of us got really good at going to the toilet when certain models walked in.
Oh, no, she's got a fringe. Walk away.
There's so-and-so.
Yeah.
I'm off to the catering
Good
table.
old Anna just went, yeah, I'll take that one.
I know.
Yeah, so, you know, they're the type of situations that you're in that at the end of the day when you're working at that high caliber, which is why, you know, the lead stylists in moments like that can get really stressed. And I can understand why, because everyone needs to look at you know, there's a certain standard that is required and it's their name, you know. It's so Guido has his team and so does Duffy and everyone else, and it's their name. So it's Duffy that's done the hair, but actually, obviously, it's all of his team as well as him that's done the hair, and he has to put his trust in his team to deliver.
It's just like a salon.
Yeah.
The person's name is above the door.
Yeah.
And you're representing that person.
It is, you know, it's the pressure that you're put under. But yeah, so then.
But then that kind of transferred. So we had all those experiences, and then you were working backstage, and obviously we were coming into contact with a lot of people that were, you know, they'd be called extras, which is kind of a rough term, but there were people that would come and help the core team.
Yeah. And
obviously you have people from all different kinds of backgrounds, different sorts of education, and it's seemingly that's where you realize that there's a lack of education for people that are coming into the shows, and also people turning up with all of the tools that probably weren't the right thing, or maybe they didn't have access to it because of where they lived, or, you know, there's a plethora of reasons why they weren't prepared physically and mentally for the job itself.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting because I remember you talking about, you know, you were always the one with the trendy brush backstage. I was always, bloody hell, is that brush that she's got? It's like Japanese. I was like, I've never seen a Japanese brush before.
That was the print final one, wasn't it? We were all amazed by that one.
I know. It was like he brought in an alien relic that just came you know, from space. But it was always really interesting because I'm a very back to basics. You know, I could go to Superdrug and just buy a comb from there, and I'm like, you know, a comb's a comb. Yeah. But actually working with you, especially with you, I've realized that there is a huge gap in quality of tools and equipment, even down to a hairdryer. I think I used the same hairdryer for like 10 years. Just that's how I am. I'm just, you know, I don't think about these things. Yeah. But then you come into contact with other people and you see what they're using and you're like, okay, actually my life is 10 times easier using this kind.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. You could do it with anything, but if you have good tools, it just makes your life so much easier. Absolutely.
And then when you were talking about, oh, I'm thinking about setting up this company and, you know, maybe we could like supply all of the team. I was like, that's such a great idea. And that's kind of where Session Kit was kind of the genesis of Session Kit, right?
Yeah. It was actually, I think the first seed that was planted into my head about session kit, but session kit didn't have a name, really. It was like just an online platform that could be like a hub, a home for everyone to get the right tools. I was working with Angelo Saramara, and he actually did my hair for a show when I was working at Trevor's. And at this point, Angelo was working on Eugene Solomon's team, and Angelo did my hair up for this show using the Japanese Nishida grips that I stock at Session Kit. And I was amazed. I initially thought it was just his amazing, incredible skills, which I'm sure half of it was. I'm sure most of it was, to be fair. But I was amazed. My hair felt so secure. And when I got home, I took out 2 pins, 2 grips. And the grips were like metallic-y blue, like a very dark metallic-y blue. Never seen them before in my life. But I was shocked that my hair stayed up all evening with only 2 hair grips. And I, before that point, would only be able to source grips from places like Sally's or Capital, places like that, basically, where you'd get your standard hair grips from. And all of them would just buckle. So you'd be putting them in the hair and then they're just, you know what it's like. It drives me insane. Some would be a little bit stronger than others, but none of them were particularly great. And I found it like just really frustrating that, you know, we're charging like in the salon or whatever you for £100 for a hair up at the time, probably way more now, but at the time, you know, it was quite a bit. And we're using these terrible pins that just are buckling, you know, that aren't actually that great. And the only reason the hair was actually staying up was purely, yes, because of our skills. And yes, you can argue that obviously it has to be about your skills and not your tools. But if you can use 2 hair grips that are really strong, like just makes it's just easier, isn't it? It just makes your life easier instead of like putting it in and then chucking it down, you know. So
yeah, those grips from Boots are terrible.
Just awful.
Yeah, they're like chopsticks.
Just literally just bend them, or just, you know, as soon as you go to put it in, it just sort of twists like it's really annoying. So when I had them, I took those 2 out and I was amazed. I'd never seen the colour before. I had no idea where these were from. And then when I worked on Eugene's team, I was like, this is where they're from. They were everywhere. So Eugene only uses the Japanese hair grips. So not every single session stylist only uses these Japanese hairpins. But I recognised them because of the colour and the strength. And they were like gold dust to me. I still at this point didn't know that they were from Japan. So it was actually me and Richard Philippart. We were like, oh my God, these grips are amazing. We should have them in our kit, but we don't know where the hell to get them from. So admittedly, we were picking them up from the floor.
Of course.
Any after the show that had been pulled out and someone didn't care because they had a whole box of them and knew where they could get them from. Whereas me and Richard were like, we need these because when we next do a show with him, this is all he uses. But he wasn't supplying them to us. He wasn't giving us some. And everyone on his team had them. So we picked them up because, I mean, they're so strong, slightly unhygienic. And now we've had COVID, probably not a good idea. But I didn't care at the time. And I just wanted them. And they were like gold dust to me. We didn't know where they were from. We didn't know anything about them. And then another time I got on with Eugene again. And then I saw the box that they came in, recognised that they were Japanese, took pictures. And then I sourced them in. So it was actually the Japanese hair grips that started everything. And so actually it started way back when I was at Trevor's, because it was Angelo that I saw them first. And then through working on the shows, I managed to figure out where they were from. And then I sourced them into the UK. And actually, that was the first start of Session Kit, which was then via Instagram. Because so just through me initially, I was Instagramming that I had the grips, and I was selling them because everyone who were working at Fashion Week knew what they were, and everyone wanted them. So I was just selling them to friends. So I just sourced a load in, like, I don't know, 100 boxes or something. It wasn't a lot. And just was selling them to my friends so that everyone had them ready for Fashion Week. So it was actually, it was the grips that started it. And I was taking orders via DMs and working out the postage on my way into work, working out how much postage would be. Yeah. It was literally insane. It was not sustainable because I was going into work, and obviously I was still juggling salon, still juggling session, juggling the both on my way into work, trying to find out how much it would cost to ship to wherever. And that I just kept getting inundated with messages and messages and messages, to the point I ran out of the stock that I had. Then I had to order more. And then I was like, this needs to change. And also I was then working with so many different people that I was like, everyone had such amazing tools, because obviously when you're working in session, you have assistants from from everywhere, from Japan, around Europe, everywhere. And so everyone's able to get hold of different tools. So then my eyes were just opened and realised that in the UK, we actually don't have great tools at all.
Or zero access to the good tools.
Yeah. Yeah, we couldn't. I mean, we can't. Yeah, there was no... The only place you can get tools from at that moment in time was Sally's or Capital, and that was it. And what they had, and that was it.
Yeah, they're just supplying what the hair salons wanted at the time.
Yeah. And I think now, obviously, because session styling is so much more out there, people know of it so much more. I think because of beauty bloggers, the internet, everything is so much more accessible now in terms of what is available to you. I think it kind of all was good timing in terms of like that people do want easy access to everything. People do want the best now. People are seeing what is the best, so like the super single curl clip pins, which are the cover clips that Guido made famous, basically, because as you know, being on his team, he had like a huge, massive bag of them to himself and would place them around everyone's hair. And then I think because then beauty bloggers were invited backstage, they were almost thinking that was the look.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And they were just like, I think they were just fascinated with them because they're like Japanese and different colours. And
exactly.
I think it was such a, it was so attractive to them that they were like taking loads of pictures, and then it became really famous. And now, every beauty brand is like making their own version of them and things like that. But yeah, so then to me it was like, there is no reason why every single hairdresser from all around the world, if I do an online shop and I ship globally, no matter where you are, you can get the right tools. So if you are doing Fashion Week and you do need a certain variety of stuff, because if you are on Guido's team, for example, you need to have those cover clips. You can't turn up to his show without them. He does have a supply of them, but you need to have your own. You need to be prepared for your particular stylist that you're going to be working with. And I just felt frustrated. It was almost like I felt like it was a bit degrading what was available, and that you feel cheated. Out of all of these amazing things, and it's just because there isn't somebody importing it. So take matters into your own hands. Yeah. And the one amazing thing as well is that not only are you sourcing the best products and, making them available, but what you're doing is really rigorous testing to really make sure that this is actually the thing that's best for whatever action or whatever look that you're trying to do. Like even something as simple as hair elastic, like for people listening, not just a hair tie, but actual
reels of elastic where you can cut off as much as you please.
Mm.
Not all of them are great. Not all of them work.
Oh, God,
not
yeah.
all of them are the right thickness or have the right elasticity. So what you do, which is fundamentally what I think is really quite amazing, which I haven't seen any other distributor or platform do, which is, as a third party, you're looking at the product. You have no affiliation to the brand. You're looking at it for what it is, what the function is, and then you're really pulling it apart and testing every function of it. So then when it does come to going onto the website and you buy a product, even if you've never used that tool before and you're not sure, you're positive that the thing does the job because you've basically tested it within an inch of its life.
Yeah.
And then other people that are renowned are using it as well. So I think that's really great that you can land on the website and know that you can buy everything on there and you're going to be happy with the product.
Yeah.
It's not like going onto a marketplace where they have 10,000 products and they're just throwing it on there just to sell. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the one thing why I think so many people love Session Kit.
Yeah. I think for me, it was like, I felt like, I think because I'm a hairdresser myself, I have massive respect for all hairdressers. And I feel that we deserve to have the best stuff. And as a person, I like to be incredibly honest. I like to be upfront with people. I like to be direct. I don't like to be around the bush. And I think in session industry, you just can't be around the bush.
There's no fluff with you, that's
no
for sure.
Fluff. It is what it is. And I don't mean that like I would never be rude to anyone. I just feel that obviously I just feel like it's really important to just get to the point. I don't want, you want to go to a shop, right? And I know because I shop online a lot. And it's just, I want a platform that is truly transparent, does what it says. There's no fluff, there's no jargon, there's no nothing. It is what it is. It's just good. It performs, it does what it's meant to do, and that's why we're stocking it. And that's it. You know, there's no other intention to it. I haven't brought it out because I want to PR something. I've brought it out because we need it and it's really good. And for me, I think, like, I also want to make sure that people come online and I don't have like 20 million combs, 20 million brushes, because what's the point? Like, it just makes it so hard when you go online to shop and you've got so many variations. What does that do? Like, okay.
Well, it's confusing.
Yeah. And so, okay, so have a brush that's great for fine hair, have a brush that's great for thick hair. Okay, maybe have a couple of varieties so that, you know, because what you like in a brush isn't going to be exactly what I like in a brush, you know, which is why when I do my testing process, I always make sure that I've got like a team of hairdressers that I know will test it and give me their absolute honest opinion on it. And so it's just a small group of people. So once I've tested it, if I think it does what it's meant to do, I'm really impressed with the quality of it. I'm very happy with it. I will then pass it on and then it will get tested by them and then they'll give me their feedback. And if everyone is happy with it and they also agree, you know, we're all thinking the same, then it becomes part of our catalogue and it will go onto the Session Kit collection. But I just want to make sure that people go there and they know what the tool does, you know, and the tool talks for itself. Like, I don't bother doing like loads of there isn't the budget for PR anyway. Like, I'm a small independent business, completely independently run. So I don't have the budget for PR anyway. And I feel that if it grows authentically and by word of mouth and the tools just talk for themselves, I feel like that's like the best way for something to grow, because that's how I feel you get that real loyal connection. And I think we were discussing previously about how, you know, the internet has changed everything and almost made it quite difficult to prove your honesty, to prove that you're being honest, because, you know, there's lots of influencers now. People make money through Instagram now and TikTok and all those other platforms and YouTube. So you can just pay someone quite easily a lot of money to use that product, to then endorse that product and say that it's amazing. And it's very hard to know who's actually being honest. And all of them say, you know, this is my honest opinion. I think it's amazing, you know. Right. And how do you from a brand that's coming from a genuine, honest place, stand out from that and really try and get people to truly understand that you are 100% being honest and you know that this tool does what it's meant to do? Because if you're saying it, how do people believe, you know, because I don't believe half the people that I see online, you know. So then I just think there's no point putting money into that, because I think that's kind of gone. I don't think there's any point in it. And I think that it comes, the PR that I get and the support that I get from customers and the return custom that I get is all from the tool talking itself and just doing the job and people genuinely being impressed. Because I know if I've done what I'm saying I'm doing, which I am doing, which is the process of the testing and knowing that it's really good and getting other hairdressers to use it and make sure that what I've stocked is really good, it just speaks volumes on its own. And they're always going to be happy with what they've got. And then people just talk, and word of mouth is just, I feel, a much more genuine, valuable way nowadays.
No, absolutely. No, I think it's a really beautiful thing, what you've done and how you've managed to do it so gracefully and, you know, not making people feel stupid as customers. Because as you just said, it's you don't know who to believe. But if you can show people what the product does and let it speak for itself and show it in a very black and white way, it's a really beautiful thing. And I think there's lots of people out there that are still looking for those perfect tools. And yeah, if they want to find that perfect kit to go backstage and do their thing, Session Kit is a great place to start.
Yeah, we just want, I genuinely want to help people as well. I just feel like it's I don't know, I feel like it's just something that I want to give back and something that I'm just really passionate about. You know, I don't earn loads of money through Session Kit yet. You know, that's never been my goal. My goal about all of this was just making sure, just out of a frustration for myself of not being able to get in the right tools and respecting how hard as hairdressers we work and that we should have access to these amazing tools. And that's it, really. For me, that was like, just, that's why I did it. And that's why I work really, really hard. And I'm really passionate about, you know, making sure that I only stock the best and that I do that process. And I mean, I've literally just had a pair of tongs because, you know, like the 9mm small tongs, right? It's like impossible to get in the UK. So you can get one from Diva, I think, but it's a wand and not a tong. So it's impossible to have in the UK. I've never found them in the UK. And I've been trying to get a 9mm and 11mm tong. And it's been really tough to find a good quality one. And I finally thought I found one. And I even put it on Instagram because I thought these look nice. They look good quality, you know. And unfortunately, the little bracket that it stands on has come loose. I've been testing them, I don't know, maybe 3 months now. And this is exactly why I do the testing process. I could quite easily find them. They looked good to me. I was very happy with them. Yeah. They get hot enough and just put them on the website. But I don't want to do that because I feel like it's just cheating people. And I feel that, you know, my skills allow me to do this testing process, which I feel makes me so different to everyone else and allows me to give that quality back to, I suppose, fellow hairdressers. You know, like I feel like it's like the hairdressing industry is so much like a little community, and I feel like it would be really disrespectful for me to just like, because I'm a hairdresser myself, I'm sure like Sally's in Capital and whoever they are that have all these, you know, beauty online shops, they're not hairdressers.
Yeah, they have good
They
intentions.
they run as a business.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think just because I have the background that I have and I am a professional myself, I feel like I would be cheating my friends if I just sell these tools. Do you know, that's genuinely how I feel. And if you gave me a dodgy brush,
I'll be out your front
door.
Not
happy. Be like, Anna. So yeah, I think that's another reason why I just feel like it's almost like my duty. I feel like it's something that I need to give back to make sure that I'm respecting my fellow hairdressers and my community, and I'm giving them the right tools. Yeah.
No, that's a really beautiful thing. What I wanted to ask you, which I hope you don't mind speaking to, I mean, you're a business owner, you're trying to give back to the hairdressing community, you're a session artist, busy schedule, and you're a mom. Now, there's many people out there that think doing session work, you can't have all of those things. I just wanted to ask if you could speak to, you know, how you manage that and how you manage to maintain a balanced life. And I see that you're smiling.
Without having a breakdown.
Yeah, because, you know, there's lots of people that feel like that life is out of reach, or maybe it's impossible. But yeah, just out of curiosity, because you're someone that, you know, from the outside, it looks like you managed to juggle everything with somewhat kind of ease and grace. And I was just wondering, how you did it.
That's social media for you, isn't it? Only posting the good stuff.
Right.
Not the child having a tantrum on the floor. Yeah, I think becoming a mum and the realization of how hard it is to juggle your career and become a mum was shocking to me. Like, everyone said, like, oh, it's challenging, you know, you'll find it hard. And I kind of actually felt to myself, you know, like, I'm quite good with last minute things. Like, I'm quite spontaneous. I'll be all right. Like, I'll go with the flow. You know, I think with babies, you just got to go with the flow. I was all full of that.
Kumbaya.
You know, I'll just be some earth mother and I'll work it out. No, I just thought I'm quite relaxed with unsuspected things that might happen. And like with our session work, it's very last minute. So you've got to be used to, like, you know, when I was working with Guido, it's like, can you get to New York now? You know, it's all like, oh, I've got to go. So I think with children, with babies, you know, the last minute changes that happen all the time, you lead your life, you know, very much like that. Like, anything can change, you know, all of a sudden they're ill and you can't do something and things like that. So I thought, oh, I can do this. Yeah, I'll be fine. And then it happened. And then you're like, oh, this is hard. Very hard. But you can make it happen. And I'm definitely not going to sit here and say it's easy, because it's really not. And I think you can, I suppose there's an element of saying you can have it all, because there is always going to be a juggle, and you're always going to feel that you're not possibly doing one part of your job as well. So it's like, if I'm doing really well and I'm working every single day and I've got this amazing editorial coming up, it does mean that I have to then sacrifice time with my daughter, with Ray, and that has its challenging itself, and then you feel guilty that way. And then when you're being an amazing mum and you're really present and you're there every day, you're then left with a little bit, if you are career driven, I think you are then left, or maybe you just love your job, it's not even about having that drive, but you then feel like a little bit like you've lost yourself. So it's like, no matter whichever way you're being successful, I think when you are someone that loves to work, or you just love your job, it's hard to always feel like you're doing a great job. Do Do you know what I mean? So I think I've just sort of learned that there will be days when I'm being a great mum, and there'll be days when I'm doing great in my career. But for me, I have to do the both, because I couldn't just do one. I wouldn't be happy doing just one. So I wouldn't be happy just being a stay-at-home mum. That there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, it would drive me crazy. I really love my job, and I really feel that I shouldn't have to feel guilty because I want to work all the time, because I do love my job and I am a workaholic and I love learning. I love doing new things, and it keeps me who I am. And so for me, being at home now, raised at school now anyway, but you know, being a stay-at-home mum just wouldn't feed me. It wouldn't make me. I just would feel like I'd lose myself. So I have it all, in the sense that I do juggle the both, but I think it's really important to just realise that no matter when you do have it all, some days you're going to feel, you know what I mean? It's not really a balance. It's one day you're feeling great of that part of your life, and then the other day you're feeling great at that part. But either side, you're feeling a bit guilty. And you just have to live with it. That's it for me. Yeah, I think
No, it's really amazing, because I think it goes to show with your character as well. You're always looking at the positive, and it's all about perspective. And it's being able to enjoy both aspects of your life like that, whether one takes precedent or the other does.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's just allowing that ebb and flow to happen.
Yeah.
I don't have kids, but I hope that I would be able to balance it as well as you do.
Yeah.
And to be able to not only be an amazing mom, an amazing partner, but also be a successful hairdresser and have a successful business. I think it's really important for people to hear that you can do it all, but it does take a very open and free perspective, and it takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, and to like adapt to those emotions, because they're new emotions. You know, you don't when you don't have children, you're able to just be very selfish in a way. It's not selfish, but it's like you can think about just yourself.
It's a version of being selfish.
Yeah. And it's just like you don't. There's no one else to worry about. You know, you're just considering yourself, and you're considering yourself in every decision you make, and then you become a parent, and you don't really consider yourself. You know, like it's very hard to put yourself first. You know, and when you work in the session industry, there are some jobs that aren't going to come round again. And you then have to put yourself first, which then does have a little bit of guilt. You feel like a little bit bad about that. I think mums struggle with that more than dads. And that's generally speaking, because sometimes that doesn't happen. But on a general case, I think mums do struggle harder with that, maybe just because I think the beginning bond situation, and like I said, that I am generalizing here, because sometimes mums do go straight back to work and dads will stay at home, and they will do the feeding and they will do all of that because the mum has got a career where she's not going to take time out at all. But on a general thing, very often mums will take time out at that very, very beginning bit, and it's a time where babies are very, very reliant on your body, and the bonding that happens in that time frame does really eat up, like, you know, does make you feel, it does have that guilt when you want to put yourself first, you know, and I think sometimes women struggle because it's almost sometimes assumed that you shouldn't put yourself first, and if you are putting yourself first, you get that edge from some people that they're like, not being a great mum. Do you know what I mean? You do get that there is still that stigma around. It's very old fashioned, but then I think a lot of people, I've chatted to a lot of session stylists, and a lot of, you know, session stylists feel with their family sometimes they don't understand the industry and the last minute of it. And we've got even friends that sometimes don't understand that you can't say yes to their wedding, and you can't say, you you know, if you're really going to take session designers seriously, you're going to do your career seriously and get it to a really good point, there are a hell of a lot of sacrifications that you've got to take.
Oh, you're missing everything.
Like, it's, you know, if you want that job, you need to take it when it comes in. And if that means missing a friend's wedding or something big, that's just the way it is. If you want to push it to that level, you know, if you don't want to push that to level, I think you can be a little bit flexible with it. But I think that when it comes to being a mum, there are some things that you really don't want to miss. So it's really, then it becomes really hard. You know, friends and family is one thing, but when it comes to kids, but I remember my sister, because she's never fully understood the way it's very last minute. Like, I can't make a plan at the weekend. I just have to wait till nearer the time. And I still do that now. You know, that's just the way it is. I'm not going to turn down work. A freelancer's world, actually, really, generally speaking, isn't it? You know, you're freelance, you're going to take the job when it comes in. And I had a situation when a few years back now, and I became a single mum. And my sister was like, well, I just think you're going to have to give up your job and just get a normal job. You know, this is my family. You know, you don't think that she would prefer to, you know, oh, just get yourself a normal job. What
does that mean anyway?
Yeah. And I was so hurt because I felt like, why should I? Okay, I know the situation is really difficult, but I refuse to give up something that I've worked so hard for. It's the type of job you can never get back into. Like, you're not going to get back into. Like, if you're off the scene for so many years, it's just not. It's not gonna happen. And I've worked so hard for, and I love. And I said to my mum, like, I know this is going to be so challenging around childcare, but there is no way that I am going to give up what I love doing. I think I'll go insane. Like, I can't do it. I have to have this for myself. And I know I'm a mum, and I know I have other responsibilities, but I need to make this work. And it was incredibly hard to carry on because, you know, I didn't have the flexibility of having a partner. Ray's dad was very much still around, but, you know, when you're together, it's a lot more easier to just be like, oh, I've got this job, I've got that job. But when you're not together, you know, it's very hard to work that out and to make it fair on the other person because you're not with them anymore, you know? And so it was so challenging. And I don't know how I got through that stage really with keeping myself present in my industry enough, but also having a 1.5-year-old that, you know, I didn't have someone to be with her when I had the jobs. I don't live near my family. My family are still in Portsmouth. So it's just like insane, you know, but yeah.
And you managed to pull through and balance it all out.
Yeah.
And now you're on the other side and you're going to be getting married soon.
Yes.
And there's
it's all light at the end of the tunnel. It's all fine now.
See, with every dip, there's a high.
Yeah.
And again, I think it speaks volumes to who you are as a person, of how resilient you are and how unwilling you are to change who you are, no matter the circumstance or no matter, you know, the influence. And I think that's why I've always looked up to you ever since we met at that show, apparently.
Jono can't remember.
No, but you know, I think it's really beautiful for people to hear because there's many people that have gone through the same thing, or are going through the same thing or something similar. And it's nice to know that you can juggle all of these things and keep who you are and maintain your identity. And, you know, maybe the business goes quiet or is dormant for a moment, but that's only for a time. And this moment will also pass. Yeah. And that, as you said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You're about to get married to your lovely partner, Jason, who I've never met, but I will meet very soon. And it seems like Session Kit is blossoming, and your session career is blossoming, and yeah, it's just a really beautiful thing to see. And I think here would be a really nice place to stop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on episode 1. It's been so
Pleasure.
nice to chat to you.
Pleasure.
And we'll save all the more saucy, funny stories for another one.
I'm always happy to talk, Jono.
Oh, no.
You know I talk for England. I'm very happy to talk.
But I think it's been a really, really lovely first way to start the podcast, and also for people to get to know you and to know the person behind Session Kit and what it means to you, because people can go on a website and they see products and they don't understand the love and the desire to give back to the community that you love so much.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your passion and your time and for your friendship.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.